What's up, people? It's Whyt Manga here, and let's jump straight into this. Coloring tutorial, basic cel shading, real quick. Learn how to do it real quick in Manga Studio, especially. There are other ways to do it, but this is how I do it, and I think it's really quick and efficient for Manga Studio specifically. So here we have the line art, and this line art was created in Manga Studio using the pencil tool. You can also use the pen tool, but here I chose the pencil tool, and that's the sketch layer that's beneath. And to understand this tutorial, you probably need to understand layers, maybe just to a certain degree. But I try to make it as easy as possible. One thing you can do is just follow me throughout the whole thing, and you'll easily get it. And you can see me creating a layer now, and that's the line art layer. And right now the line art layer is in normal because I created it in Manga Studio. But when I scan in drawings, I usually change the layers to multiply. That's the quickest way, so I can put a layer beneath and then I can pick a color and it will show underneath. If it's not multiply, it's not going to show, because when you scan in, you're not just scanning in the line art that you've drawn, you're also scanning in the paper itself. So the multiply kind of makes the white space transparent, if you will. So create the layer, and we're going to create a layer skin. And we're gonna pick a color. At the bottom, at least for my computer, is the bottom left, and I pick a color for the skin. And what I do is then I use the auto select tool, and I select a closed area. So if the area is not closed, if the black lines don't meet, the auto select can kind of take more space than I actually want. Right here, I just want to collect the space for his neck and his head and maybe parts of his ear. So I hold shift and I click on all of them at the same time, and then I click on fill, and it's going to fill it with the color I want. And since we're still selected, you can change the color right now and refill, and everything will be fine. One thing to keep in mind is to stay on this layer. What I just did was expanded the space taken with the lasso tool, the auto select, so that there wouldn't be any white spots. But usually there still are, so I just changed to a pen tool and or a brush, and I just fill in the spots. Pretty straightforward. So you make sure you're still on the skin layer, and you select all the parts that are skin. Right now what I'm doing is just putting in the flats. Later I'll go in with the shadows and all this extra stuff and filters and whatever to make it look better. So the same thing applies. I select, I expand, usually expand by 1, and then I fill in with the same color, and I make sure everything I'm doing is I'm still on the skin layer. And when you're done with that, what you can do if you want to change the colors, you can go on that layer, right click, select the layer, and the create selection, and you can just go, it'll just automatically select anything that the skin layer is touched. So you can go, you can make him lighter. You pick a lighter color and click press fill, or click another color and press fill, until you get the skin color that you want. In this case, I wanted to make him a little maybe darker or lighter, I don't know, but I just wanted, I was trying to find the color I was comfortable with. Here, just still filling in the, if I see a spot, I fill it in. And what I'm doing right now is showing you when you're on that layer, you can erase. But when you're erasing anything, you can only erase things that are on that layer. You can't, I can't erase the line art. Another thing some people can do, you can lock the layer, but I didn't do that in this tutorial. There's no need. But you can lock a tutorial so you can never mess with it. So if you're on this layer, you're coloring straight on that layer. Like anything you do on the layer, and then it's permanent unless you do Control Z, because if you erase basically anything that's open in that layer. So usually I give each color I use its own layer. So in this case, for skin, I just called it skin. I could have called it brown and used that same layer any other place that I use brown, but I call it skin. and I've picked the color for skin. And if I erase, I can only erase the colors that are on skin. I'm not gonna end. I can't erase the line work because that's a different layer. You know, pretty straightforward. This is basic stuff if you know anything about layers. So we've created another layer, and I'm going to call this hair, and it's on its own right now. Now that I'm on hair, I can't erase anything skin. All I can do is work on something new. So for this layer, I'm going to work on the hair, and what I'm doing now is the auto select. So I'm going to select the hair, and then I'll pick a color that I want, and I make sure that I try to make sure that all the black lines touch, so that I'm only getting a part, only getting a hair, and I'm not getting extra things. So if there's a hole in the hair, you can see I didn't even get all the hair, and I got part of the back, which is what I didn't want. So what I will do is I'll go to the line layer. Make sure you change the layer. You go to the line layer and you go fill in the spot. Another thing to make sure is when you're doing the auto select, make sure that the box at the top left is on select all. That way you're selecting anything that's closed within any layer. But for right now, I'll explain that a little better as we go on. Right now, I can make sure I'm on the line layer. I go back to color black, and I'm using the pencil tool. You can use the pen tool if you want, or a brush, or whatever. It's up to you, as long as you create a closed area. So what I've done now is I've closed the hole that was there, and I'll end up going back to and I can select any layer as long as it says as long as I'm on the refer to all layers. I can do the auto select anywhere I want. But if I'm on the other one, I can only do the auto select for the layer I'm on. Anyways, right now I'm clicking on any all parts of his hair, and it's going well because all the holes are closed, so it's not going anywhere I don't want. So I expand by 1. I make sure I'm filling on the hair layer, because if I do it on the line art layer, it will affect the line art. So fill in the hair. Again, remember, all we're doing right now is just putting in the flats, and this is the same technique at least this is the same technique I use, and it's real quick if you know what you're doing. Same technique I use just to fill in everything. And for the white spaces, the white holes, even after you use the expand and you fill, and you might still get some white holes. So not necessarily white holes, just holes. You're white because the background is white. So if the background was red, you see the red holes. So anyway, and the background is like the layer that's at the bottom. You can see it's white. Anyways, so I remain on the hair layer, and I go in and I use the pen tool here in this case, and I fill in the holes manually. There are other ways to go about it, but for this tutorial I'm just going to stick to one. It's to show you another example. Since I'm on the hair layer and I just created that with a pen tool, I can only erase that thing because it wouldn't affect the skin layer, because the skin layer is below the hair. Because if you look at the layers at the on the right, you can see that the hair layer is above the skin layer. So if I'm on the skin layer and I pick a color, and I'm drawing right now, but it's not going to show because the hair color is above the skin layer. Like the hair layer is above the skin layer, so the hair color will be above the skin's color. So even though I'm drawing underneath, it's not going to affect anything. So really, it's something you play with and understand how layers work. Once you understanding layers is like the basic thing for everything you do in any software, honestly. So this is like really basic stuff. Hopefully, most of you already understand what I'm saying at this point. So, like I said, usually I have different layers for different colors, and in this case, I've picked the color for the hair, and I've filled it in for every part of any hair. At least for this character, all parts of his hair have the same color. And it's kind of like a Goldilocks, blonde-ish kind of. It's weird. Anyways, again, when you're selecting, you can select anything you want as long as it's closed. If I selected the you know, the one that's not refer or layer all layers, and I select, I'm going to select everything on the layer. I'm going to select, like, if I'm on the hair layer, if I select the hair, it'll select everything here. If I don't select hair, it's going to select everything except the hair, right? It's only going to focus on the hair. So most times when I'm on the auto select, I make sure, like, as you can see, if when I fill, I'm filling in everything that's green. That's not what we want. At least for this tutorial, it's not what we want. So we want to make sure when we're using the auto select that it's on refer all layers. There are cases where you would want to use the other one, but for this, we're just going to focus on referring all layers. So I'm going to create another layer, and sometimes I may not, you know how we've done so far, we've done hair and skin. Sometimes I might just call the layer a color, say red, blue, or whatever, and I use that same layer to color anything that's a shade of red. If the layer was red, and I'll use that to color anything that's a shade of red. If it was blue, I'll use that to color anything that's a shade of blue, and I just, you know, be constant with it. As long as you're constant and you're all organized, you can do whatever you want. Well, with a little practice, you can do whatever you want, and not be confused. So I'll change it back to the refer layer. And right now we're on white. So usually when I have something like white, any shade closest to white is what I'll use. So for, in this case, teeth, I already picked a color. I select, I expand, and I fill. And you know, you may not notice the difference because the background was already white, so the whole was white, you know, already. So you may not notice the difference, but there is a difference. Another tip here is usually, you know how we filled in the holes. Like before, we filled in the holes, going to the line art layer, picking black, and, you know, manually putting it in there. But you can just straight up go, let's say because I wanted his eyes to be white, and I just, you know, block the hole with the white. It wouldn't matter if like I can just block it myself using the white, and I select, and it will still work because the auto select is on refer all layers. So once everything is blocked, it's only going to select any, like, if, especially if the colors really contrast, it's going to select anything in that hole. Now if I was on the refer, you know, separate layer, it wouldn't work. But in this case, refer all layers, it works just fine. It's only, like, it works fine when there's a lot of contrast. So the eyes are white and the skin is, you know, really dark, so it works. In order not to be too confused, you know, you can just follow the tutorial and understand. And again, you know, I'm on the white layer, so I can only erase things that are on the white layer. So I'm just, you know, smoothing out the eye whites, I guess. And I use the same technique to fill out fill out everything I want to fill out. So I think what we have now is orange, and for the hat, you know, select and maybe expand by 1 or expand round. You can also change how it expands. Some expand like polygons or octagons or whatever, but we're gonna expand the circle and by 1, and we fill in. Now the orange is too bright. Since it's still selected, I can just, you know, go change the color myself and to something, you know, more suitable. When the colors are too bright, you know, sometimes it doesn't work. At least for me, you know, it could be bright. You know, it depends on the character, depends on what you're doing. I want a different color here, so I fill in. And remember, usually all this will be fast, is because, you know, this is a tutorial and I don't want to speed through all this. But usually, each color will have its own layer. That's basically it, and you just use the same technique to fill in all that you want to fill in. And then we'll get into the shading part later. For now, we're just going to focus on coloring characters in a simple cel shading. So I'm not going to go into like painting or background painting and stuff like that. You know, honestly, I'm not even the greatest at least not yet. I still have things that I too want to learn, that, you know, currently I don't feel comfortable even teaching it. But this is pretty simple, and this is it looks pretty cool, and I always end up liking the results. So this is something I can tell you guys about, and it's the simple version. Again, cel shading, there are lots of ways to go about it, but this is I like to call it the simple, quick way to do it. There are many ways to do it. Sometimes you might not even select. You can just go in with the pen and just color what you want to color. Just as long as you understand layers, you'll be fine. So for now, I'm still on the same layer with the orange, because it's gold. At least these buttons are like gold, so it's not exactly orange, but maybe a shade. I could have put it in the hair layer, but I just want to use I want to use the orange layer in this case. And when you select, I filled, and I've expanded, I filled, and there's some white space there. Pick the pen tool or whatever, or the brush, just to fill in the spot. Because when you color and you have those white spaces like in between something, it doesn't look right. That's why when you select, you expand. In most cases, once you expand, it just works like a charm. Or like I said, you could go with the pen tool and just color within the line art and erase the edges if they come out of the line art. So the same technique is used here. I'm coloring everything. Since the blue layer, looking at the blue layer, since it's above the skin, if I could have gone over the skin, but it's below the yellow, but it's above the skin, so it's kind of weird. So I have to be careful here. And it's a shade of blue, so anything blue, I'm probably going to use this layer to color it in. And it's a very light blue. It's not like blue. It's just a light blue, and you can see it goes over the skin a little bit at the edge there. And I just make sure I'm still on the blue layer, and I go erase that. And I think for the most part, we've already put in most of the flats. So right now I'm working on, I created a layer, and it's called shadow, and I made sure it's directly below the line art layer. The line art layer is at the very top, and then the shadow, I changed the layer to a linear burn, and I reduced the opacity to around 50. And then I pick a color based on where the character is. So the character is I like to think in a hot place, so I'll make it a little reddish, just to make it look hot. And then I go to the middle right of the box, of the color box, right? And once we do that, this is where I put in the shadows, because the shadows, for quick cel shading, the shadow is just one layer. So when I pick the color I want to represent, I guess the temperature of where he is. If it was a cool place, I'd probably be picking something bluish or purplish. But I want something hot, so I'm picking something red, and like I said, reddish orange. And I go to the middle left of the color box, and the shadow layer is a linear burn layer, not a normal layer. Remember how we changed it from normal to multiply? And we changed the linear burn, and we reduced the opacity, and we use one layer to put in the shadows, as you can see. And we make sure the shadow layer is above all the color layers, but it's directly below. It's below the line art layer. Because if it was above the line art layer, it might go over the line art layer. Even though we reduce the opacity, it's still going to affect the line art layer, which is what we're going to want. And if the shadows seem too harsh, you can just play with the opacity until the shadows look right. Again, there are many ways to do this. This is just a quick, simple way, and you use one shadow layer to just go over everything. Like this is just one shadow layer. So just one layer, one linear burn layer. If you use a normal layer, sometimes it might work, but it doesn't work very well for the blacks, and sometimes it doesn't really feel like a shadow. And that may work for some drawings, but in this case, for this tutorial, I'm just gonna go linear burn. It's in my experience, is the best, but you guys can experiment with it. And I'm gonna use the same auto select rules apply. I just cover that space up, and it's refer all layers, and I'm going to use auto select and maybe expand by 1, and then I fill. Nice. So you may just make sure when you're on the auto select, you're on refer all layers, and that's when you can just block a space as long as there's contrast. So the shadows create a lot of contrast with the skin. It's like even though the same colors are even though it looks like it's the same color, it's a different layer, and it also creates contrast in colors. So you can just fill in that spot and use this technique to basically color the whole thing. You can also use the lasso tool, as to show an example. Once I select a space, I just fill. But we're on the shadow layer, so if I erase, I'm only erasing that shadow. Again, if you understand layers, all this is pretty basic. If you don't understand layers, you can just do exactly everything I'm doing in this tutorial, move for move, and you easily, I feel you can easily grasp, how the layers work. And the layers work the same way for everything, Photoshop, everything, Clip Studio, Manga Studio, almost everything, Paint Tool site, etc. So I just use the pen tool here, and I'm just creating like I guess how I say this now, I'm just like blocking out spots, and without having to color it and erase. I'm just gonna block them out, then use the auto select to kind of fill it in. So as you can see here, I'm not even fully shading anything yet. I'm just creating the places that will be shaded. Right now I just did a little, to make the video quicker, I guess. I've already done it, so I skipped all of that. And right now I pick the auto select tool, make sure it's on refer all layers, and I'm selecting everything. Now in this case there was a little error there because there was a hole, so we're gonna go closer to find where the hole is, and we'll just use the shadow layer. Stay on the shadow layer, don't change anything. Make sure you don't change the color with the shadow layer. Same thing applies on the other layers, but I find the hole and I close it with the same shadow layer, and then I select all the spots I've created. Remember I did a little skip, so if you're confused, you can just rewind a little bit and hear what I said. I kind of just created to make the video not too long. I already did it. And again, remember, auto select or refer all layers, because if it's not there, it's not going to work. And again, when you select a space, when you use the auto select to select a space, you can't draw anywhere else except for within the space that you've selected. Just a heads up. So when I select everything I want, I just select all the spaces I want. Then I'm going to click fill, and you're basically going to do a little magic. You're going to make everything a whole lot quick. And I'm selecting all the holes I created. If you use anything except for the refer all layers, it'll be a mess. But this Control Z, so it's one of the perks of digital coloring in general. So once I've selected everything I want, I fill. Give me a second, still selecting. And this is after I've created what I want. So yeah, some of the shading was actually manual, so you can actually, like I said, there are many ways to go about it. This is like the quickest way I know, and sometimes you don't even color this way at all. There are other ways to color cel shading, but this is just a real quick, cheap way of going about it, and with decent results. And I just filled, and that's how it looked. And to get rid of the selections, You can press for Mac it's like Command D, but I think for PC is Control D. And to select multiple spots at a time is you just need to hold Shift and select everything. Because normally if you're not holding Shift, you can only select one space at a time, but if you're holding Shift, you can select multiple. Some people, when they do your cel shading, they like to incorporate gradients, but you know, I don't want to make this tutorial too complicated, so I'm not gonna put in any gradients really for this one, but maybe future tutorials for Manga Studio I'll show you guys how to do that. But yeah, and here you can go to the shadow layer. You can also play with it, even if you don't want a linear burn. There are other types of layers you can play with and see the one you want. Really, for cel shading, once you understand how layers work, you're really, green light. So, on the shadow layer, you can also play with the opacity and whatever. So now I'm creating another layer, and I'm going to call it light. It's kind of like where I can put like highlights or whatever. And you can have more than one highlight, depends on the light source and the color of the light source. So, for the light color, well, before the lights, actually, the layer I'm creating right now is just like an eye shine kind of thing, and I kind of create the layer and I put it above everything. It's above the line art, it's above everything. So I go to the eye, just to give it a little life, and you can press B and to go to the brush layer, and you pick the soft brush, and you can if it doesn't go to the regular brush, you press B twice and go to the soft brush. And I just go in with the white or whatever color is the color of the light source, and I just put it. I just color over it. I even color over the line art just a little bit, or fully. I don't know, but generally just a little bit. And I do the same thing for both eyes. Again, coloring manga eyes, dude, it all depends on style. And so for this style, that's what I do, and there are many ways of going about it. Then I create that light source, the light layer. That layer will be above the shadow layer. The layer I was talking about with the eye shine, that's above everything. That's above the line art. So for this one, this is the light, and I just changed the layer type to add. I think it's just add, and I reduced the opacity to I think 40. I think I reduced the opacity to 40. And you know how we go to the left, to the middle right of the color box? Here we're going to the upper middle-ish, but a little more to the left of the same color. So you're not changing the color. So you just go in and you can just put highlights. I'm just on the regular pen tool, and I'm just going over it, putting highlights, giving it a little life, giving it a little shine. And once you put in the highlights for where you want them, it's really like some cases you're done. So you see I've put it in here, maybe put a little bit for the buttons just to let them shine a little bit. And again, you can increase the opacity if it's not showing enough for you, or you can create a completely different layer and have different highlights, different lights, different shines on different things if you want more opacity on one thing and you want less on another. And really, you're done. Like, it depends on your style, but in some cases you're done. I'm going to work a little more with this for this tutorial. I'm just going to end it here, and any extra thing that you see that I add to this drawing will be maybe something I'll save for another tutorial. But for basic cel shading, you are done. Again, I just focused on the cel shading and layers in Manga Studio or Clip Studio because it's almost the same thing. I didn't focus on the line art. The line art was already created before I started the video, and this is it. And you will see the end result of what I do to the drawing after putting all the touches that I want to put. I'm going to add some blurs, add some fades, add some motion blurs and stuff like that, and you'll see how it works in a second. This is the final result, and you can see a little degree, or whatever that is, and light source, giving it more of an anime look. And you can see it have, see a clearer version on my DeviantArt, and links to that below. Please hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys learned. Please like the video, favorite the video, comment on questions you may have, which you would probably have. Leave comments on what I should do next, and like I said, to subscribe for more videos. I have a lot more videos like it, and more videos touching other subjects and other fun stuff. I have so many ideas for this channel, and just haven't had the time to get around to them. A lot of people have asked for a Manga Studio tutorial, and here you go. Here's one about coloring, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, say it again. Like, comment, favorite, ask questions, subscribe. For those who have got my book, I'd like to thank you guys for purchasing Apple Black. You guys, for those who don't know what Apple Black is, that's my actual comic. Leave links to purchase the book on Amazon, or read the first 3 chapters free on the Saturday AM website. I'll leave links to that below. And thanks for the support. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We good? Yeah, we good.